you so much for joining today. This has been a journey in the making, I suppose. We've seen a lot happen over the last few months, and we thought that it was going to be temporary, whether it was COVID or load shedding. We've just underestimated the impact every single time. So we really thought it time to start speaking about business sustainability, especially in the SME space. Governance and sustainability has always been a thing for the larger corporates, and they've spent a lot of time investing resources, money, just strategy in that space. But for the business owner, it's kind of been but why? It's so expensive and administratively intensive. Why would we go there? So I suppose just you've spent more than a decade now in the SME funding space and have really been at the coalface of a lot of turmoil and crises and knocks that the SME business sector has been dealt. Just in your opinion, what's had the biggest impact? How have you seen them adopt?
If you go back 10 years, it actually hasn't changed much. Back then, the barriers to entry, the barriers to grow the business, support, just really high hurdle rates have always been there. And then the second one is neglect. Just being neglected by government, by the traditional banks. Just the support systems haven't been there. And yes, it's been really evident with COVID and of course this inflation and load shedding, but actually problems have been there for a long time. But the good thing about what's happened in the last couple of years is they're definitely in the limelight now about the plight of small businesses and the realization really of the whole country that the future is through small businesses. The only way you grow this country is through small businesses. It's the way you deal with unemployment. It's the way you deal with inequality. So at the one hand, there's so many problems, but on the other side, there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, if we just think recently, we've had this massive exposure to the global stage. We've seen the financial sector open up, the digitalization of that, which is directly impacting sustainability and sustainable practices. How do you think South Africa compares to the global market or to the global stage?
They're leading the world because they have to deal with so many challenges.
Yes.
So what that really means is they don't have no choice to deal with things or to find solutions. So if you look what happened with the COVID year, businesses couldn't trade. South Africa is one of the biggest countries in the world to adopt to digital transformation, using digital platforms, ability to reach new customers. And that happened in a very short space of time, in a country that was still quite lagging in that field. And the other side, of course, is almost like social responsibility. Because unemployment is so high and inequality is so difficult, or so difficult to resolve, so small businesses play a very, very, very important part in resolving that. So job creation comes through small businesses, empowering communities through small businesses. So the good feeling of what small businesses actually achieve for the country and the economic benefit is really telling.
Yeah. I mean, I listened to a video that Vusi made recently, and he said the reason why COVID has been so tough, the water crisis, the power crisis, I mean, you name it, we've been through day zeros across the country. There's provinces that are without water for weeks. They are constantly experiencing load shedding, very reactive to it and very much responsible in how they address, communicate and try and trade through it. But Vusi mentioned a very interesting thing. He said the reason why it's hit us so hard as a generation is that this generation's soft. We've not really had big impacts. If you think about the generations before us who've had world wars, massive pandemics that have wiped out populations, and the biggest difference between then and now has been technology and social media and us almost experiencing and re-experiencing a lot of these very difficult circumstances and crises. So I almost want to, I wanted to get your view and your sense around saying that we've had it easy in a way up to now. Your view on that, and also just do you agree, do you disagree, do do you think that we're doing fairly well with the cards that we've been dealt?
Yeah, I think from a world view, there's a bit of softness in the world, especially the first world and dealing with problems. But in South Africa, it's been really challenging. I don't think it's been soft yet at all. One of the big things South Africa is known for, South African entrepreneurs, is being resilient across the world, constantly facing all these challenges and trying to make a different way. That's hard. And I think that's also made the South African entrepreneur more stronger and more resilient. Without any assistance really throughout this process, no help, they managed to get through. If you think about all the relief packages that was given overseas versus the local packages, you actually can't compare. So yeah, that makes us more resilient, but also there's been an embracement of technology, at the same time, not wanting to do things in the way it was done in the past, new way of doing things. And I think South Africans are quick to adapt, and that's just part of the culture.
Yeah. So when we talk about sustainability in business, there is the social part of it, and you can't be externally social if you don't take care of yourself. So you can only, by investing in yourself and being sustainable in how you run your business, I suppose, be resilient enough to keep at it, keep doing it. The psyche of the SME business owner has been through a lot, and as a leader in a leadership position during these crises, I would say small business in a way. I mean, retail capital's big, but it's still very much for entrepreneurs, by entrepreneurs at heart. How do business owners stay positive at the face of all of this adversity?
I suppose you must first recognize it's been difficult. They've actually been severely impacted, the mental wellness, emotional state of these small business owners, the constant changes, and that of course takes its toll. So there's no doubt about that. But what has been proven, over time, is that if you face these difficulties and you come up with plans to rather make a plan and not put your hands up in the air and say, I don't know what to do, it has worked. So South Africa's got a good track record of making differences or making things different ways of work. And I think that's quite important. So there's almost a track record now of big challenges, and we can get through it with very little assistance. So can you imagine a world where South African entrepreneurs is really supported and given the support they need and what they could actually achieve?
So you're literally walking straight into this question. Do you think government is doing enough to support the SMEs?
No.
Can they do more?
It's a flat out no. There's recognition.
Yes.
Definitely from government to say that small businesses are the most important sector of the country. They could play the biggest part in moving this country forward. But the reforms has been lackluster. We spoke about looking at the red tape last year, revising that hasn't happened. Looking at the load shedding, yes, there's been incentives, but it's very, very poor. Access to funding, there were so many hurdles put into place. They were difficult to access. Again, didn't really work. So yes, they talk the talk, but when it comes to the execution, it's really been poorly executed. And what that's meant is the private sector has come in and really trying to support the small businesses. Alternative lenders like Retail Capital have really been at the forefront of assisting businesses during these difficult times. But there's a whole array of services throughout the country that really want to support businesses. And if you look at this renewable energy topic, what's quite interesting about it is actually twofold. One is you're trying to resolve the load shedding, which is an immediate need. I mean, you need electricity to trade.
Yes.
But what has also opened up small businesses is around sustainability. Having this long-term view about impact on your climate, impact on your environment. And it's made that topical because of load shedding. So in a way, load shedding has been negative, but also positive to make small businesses aware of what the impact they can have on the environment, which is only good.
And have you seen certain sectors being more innovative or resilient in their approach to this? Specifically, if we think about the water and the power crisis that most business owners had to navigate around, and is there certain traits that we can almost identify or associate with those industries that we've seen? Is it the early movers, the adopters? Is it the guys that almost wait and see and then move? What do you think has been those sectors and spaces?
That's interesting. Agriculture, which is really a traditional way of work, they've really adopted technology. This looking at how they can increase the productivity of their yield, looking at way of waste management, using technology, monitor the crops, what do they need. If you look at the healthcare, mobile apps to help with health, or telephone versus being physical.
Yes.
You're really using technology to drive that. Renewable energy is going to be moving more into the solar, hydro type of thing, electrical vehicles down the line. This is all about using technology and being forefront of things. So I think it's not actually one or two industries. I think it's across the board. There's acceptance that using technology can make yourself more sustainable. And sustainable is actually meaning two things. It's looking around the environment and also being around for a long time. I think the problem with the mindset of entrepreneurs for a long time has been on survival. How do we survive this month? How do we survive this week?
Yes.
We don't talk about how do we survive long term. What's our long term impact?
Yeah.
And what we've seen across this is first movers, the ones that are willing to take a chance to try new things, succeed or thrive. But the ones that stay behind and don't want to change, they don't survive.
Can sustainability disrupt itself almost in a way? Because sustainability has always traditionally been associated with, like we've said, the fluff stuff. It's been this theoretical paper on carbon credits and tax incentives, and all of these things is really tough to implement. Is there the opportunity for the sustainability sector to change that around?
It is, but it's almost indirectly. I agree with you. ESG, if it was a concept, has been around for a long time, but there was no need or will to want to change.
Agree.
When there's no water, when there's climate change and the crops, the heat is too much for the crops, there's no electricity. So you have to consider alternative energy like wind and solar. All of a sudden, you are forced then to consider these things. So, and that's a good thing. At the end of the day, it's not about how you get there, it's about the journey and the actual end point. So I think it's quite important that the world's moving towards that direction out of necessity. But that's not a bad thing.
Do you think that necessity will drive the adoption around it, or will it be something that I suppose would need to be enforced?
It won't have to be enforced. It will be self-selection. So if you choose not to do it, you'll fall behind. You want to have electricity, you want to have water, and consumers, of course, are demanding, and they want to have those things in place. They want to make sure that you're able to trade and provide the services that they need. So not having that in place will be very detrimental to a small business owner.
So I always have to ask tough questions. So here's a tough one for you. Knowing what you know, looking at sustainability through a local but a macro lens as well, is there anything obvious that you can see as almost the next challenge on the horizon? Is there anything that, I suppose, if you connect the dots, because we're often surprised, and then you have this 2020 situation, but I should have seen this coming. Is there anything that we can almost now look forward and psychologically future-proof ourselves against?
That's an important question. We've got to start with the South African context. We still live in a society where cash is still king.
Yeah.
We're moving towards digital payments. We in rural areas don't have connectivity, but the metros are well connected. So there's wide disparity, even within the communities, within the landscape. At the same time, the future is around the corner. It's actually really here. A chat GPT is a first instance, is a first entrant to what is possible.
Yes.
It's starting to become mainstream, but the use cases and what it can actually achieve and the disruption it could have on businesses is immense. So it's something, if you don't embrace and don't understand, you could be caught off guard by not being competitive longer term. So again, it's very important. There's a lot of, we still have to adopt digital ways of work because of the differences in our landscape. But you have to have one eye on the future, and AI is that.
Absolutely.
And that's going to, again, open up new opportunities, new ways of work, new ways to reach customers, new ways to services things. And I think that's very, very important.
Absolutely. So with every opportunity, there's always the idea or the notion that there is an opportunity to commercialize. How do you believe this recent crisis has created opportunities to commercialize and I'm specifically referring to the renewable energy space, is there opportunity for entrepreneurs that are interested, or I suppose job applicants waiting that want to explore the more entrepreneurial journey? Is there opportunity to sit up and go, hang on a second, I could do this?
It's important to realize there's a huge value stream that encompasses alternative energies. So on the top end, it's about actually putting infrastructure down, the wind, the solar, the hydro. But then it comes to the residential. Who's putting the solar panels in there?
Yeah.
Who's maintaining them?
Yes.
Who's servicing them? Where are those materials being sourced? Can they be produced locally? Can the parts not come from overseas but be done here?
Yeah,
so all of that creates lots and lots of opportunity for a very important function of the country. Electricity is the key backbone of how everything operates, and if that can move towards a lot more significant portion towards alternative energy, there's a huge opportunity for small businesses to get involved.
Do you think that the global stage will eventually look to South Africa and see, like in COVID, they've watched how we've responded, how we've tracked, how we've monitored, how we've identified? Is there an opportunity for the global players to start looking to South Africa to also take the lead in how to become more responsible around sustainable business practices?
It definitely will happen, because around the world it's about, they already have lots of options on the table, so they're not really forced. But again, going back to the point where we don't really have much choice.
Yes.
So, and if you don't have much choice, you will innovate, you'll find ways of work that is not done around the world. And if you look at like in Kenya, that in M-Pesa, sending money over the mobile, they leapfrog not having a banking system to using the mobile technology. The same will happen here. Out of necessity, you will drive innovation and disruption.
And solutions. That's amazing. And I think for the small business owner, the biggest challenge at the moment is they've always struggled to access financial support. Now, safeguarding and future-proofing them against these challenges, again, comes at a upfront, short-term investment, which is often expensive. What do you think is the long-term gains or the long-term benefit? And I suppose the cost of not doing that?
Well, first of all, the cost of not doing is highly detrimental. To be reliant on currently a grid that can't provide secure electricity, reliable security, means you can't trade. You can't operate in that world. And remember, when you can't trade, you still have all your fixed costs.
Agreed.
So the margins of small businesses are continuously squeezed. So they have to look at alternatives. And if the grid does improve, it's a benefit. But the long-term benefit of alternative energy is cost savings. It's been proven around the world that it's a lot more affordable. The cost to deliver electricity is much lower. And of course, with the tax incentives and this programs that now the provinces are looking at about selling back your excess energy, all of a sudden that can become a revenue generating item, which is highly beneficial.
So is there?
And then the third one on that, is about sustainability. Again, you are protecting the climate, you're protecting the environment, and longer term, that's become more and more topical. With more and more people around the world, more pollution, it will become a problem. So us being a leader of that, I think is quite critical.
So is there an opportunity for the financial services sector to really start embracing the sustainability concept, for lack of a better term? How can we become more aggressive around providing sustainable products into the market?
I think it needs to be in the mainstream, awareness. So one of the issues you have with funding for small businesses is that there's a large portion still believe you can only get it from traditional banks. They stay away.
Yes.
Alternative lenders are out there. They are providing a good solution, but from education perspective, small business owners don't know about it until they're made aware of it.
Yes.
It's the same with sustainability. You need to make small businesses need to be made aware of the benefits, short term and long term, and then they'll start adopting. Yes. So awareness, education, I think is quite critical to adopt.
So on that note, adopting new ways of thinking, adopting a different mindset, what is next for the way that you think about strategy for SMEs in the sustainability sector?
I think it's pretty clear the world is changing rapidly. Technology, as much as it's been beneficial, actually has made the world quite difficult to operate in.
Yes.
Constant change, constant evolution. The only constant is now change.
Yes.
Which means businesses need to be prepared for multiple scenarios. Do not only think, if we get through this load shedding, then everything will be okay. That's not true. There'll be some other issue coming across in a couple of months' time. They need to remain agile. So almost what they've adopted the last couple of years, maybe I don't want to hear this, but that's the new constant. That's the new way of work, or the new way the world's going to operate in.
Yes.
And that mindset of constantly be able to change and look at new things is very, very important, and will stand them in good stead moving going forward, and make them more robust of handling shocks.
Yeah.
So it's a world where change is going to be the norm.
Well, there we have it. You've heard it here first. Change is going to be the norm, and I suppose it's not the last time we're going to be saying that. So this is very real, and it's something that we have to apply in our personal and professional capacities. And just, I suppose, we spoke about mentally preparing ourselves for it. Thank you so much. This has been very insightful, such a great take on it. Thank you for honestly exploring the solutions with me. It's been great, and I'm looking forward to embarking on this journey of sustainability with yourself and the team.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.